824, it's Alabama's Morning News. I'm JT, and joining us now from Young Voices, political columnist Gabriella Hoffman is back. Gabriella, welcome in. Thanks for being back with me.
Good to speak with you. How are you this morning?
I'm doing great. So the potency of the Trump endorsements now, is it starting to lose its impact as we see in some of the primaries recently? What is he batting, about 50-50 here on his candidates winning and not winning?
I think it's a little more than 50-50. Overall, if you count endorsements maybe from last year going into this year, I would say it's a handful of losses, but a lot of victories, so to speak. But it's going to be tested coming up, especially in the state of Georgia. We're going to see, obviously, how much lasting power he has going forward. But I would still say that the Trump endorsement is very coveted. But like any endorsement, Trump or not, endorsements can sometimes not be foolproof. Sometimes other factors come into play. Voters sometimes have independent streaks, but the endorsement can still play a good role in determining the effect in Republican primaries, I think, this year especially.
Yeah, we saw a little taste of it here recently with President Trump first coming out and endorsing Senate candidate Mo Brooks, who's a congressman, and then he pulled his endorsement basically because Mo Brooks he said something similar to, let's move on. He did say that he believes that there were some problems with the 2020 election. But once again, he indicated that, look, it's not going to be changed. So we need to kind of focus on where we're headed as a party and moving forward on this. And then Trump pulled his endorsement of Congressman Mo Brooks. But yet in the recent polling we're seeing now, Katie Britt is slipping in this race a little bit. Mike Durant's up a tick, but Mo Brooks is really the one that's seeing the best increase in the last week or so in the polling numbers anyway. So, it has an impact sometimes, I think, but then all of a sudden if it goes away, not necessarily. I think voters appreciate President Trump, especially in this state, and Republicans and conservatives obviously did a much better job, President Trump, when he was in office than what's happening with this country right now. But moving forward into the midterms now, important for a Republican to have his endorsement, or does it depend on how red and purple or blue your state is?
I think Republican voters are trying to look forward and recoup from the losses of 2020, because you can go to the past and talk about mistakes, but people are very concerned about what's happening now. And I think that's where Republicans have to put their focus on. You have to focus on the now: inflation, energy prices, baby formula shortage. And I think even Alabama voters are concerned with that. And if you ruminate about the past, you can't make gains in the future. And I think that's probably where a lot of primary voters are. And it'll be very interesting to see what happens in the Alabama Senate primary. I've looked a little bit into it. There's a lot of races to follow, admittedly, so it's sometimes hard for me to keep track. I've heard about Katie Britt, Mo Brooks, and the whole kind of dynamic there with the primary going on. But I think much like other Republican primary voters, they are very much concerned with what is happening, and sometimes they may be impacted by Trump's endorsement. Sometimes they may not be influenced. And I think we'll start to see, especially going into the midterms, if it does have lasting power. But he certainly is a coveted endorsement. And I think there is an independent streak, even among Trump supporters, that they may not agree with the president. That's what we're seeing in Pennsylvania with this Senate race that is still pending.
Right.
Pending a recount, of course, because it was triggered with under 0.5% there. So I think Republicans still have a lot of independence. It doesn't mean they dislike the former president. Many still look to him as kind of a paragon and a kingmaker in Republican politics. But you'll start to see a little deviation, and that doesn't mean that they hate the former president, but people have other priorities too, and they're also going to take other factors into account, especially if they think that any of his endorsements are insufficiently conservative or America first.
And quickly, Gabriella, just your thoughts. Do you believe Republicans are poised to take the House and Senate back in the midterms?
By all indications, it looks like they will, given that the president's numbers continue to worsen. Close to 80% of the country, according to recent polls that have come out, do not think the country is going in the right direction. I think voters have placed all across the board are placing more trust in Republicans. They think they can help kind of peel back some of the bad policies. And the generic ballot right now shows that Republicans would lead by 8 percentage points going into the midterms, pending no problem unless if it's like a reverse by the president, much like in the Clinton era. I was a young child, obviously, well before getting involved in politics. But what we've heard from older political observers, what I've learned is that President Clinton learned how to moderate his tone. President Biden is not following those cues. So even Democrat pollsters and Democrat observers have said that Biden and company have to moderate if they want to maintain control and curry favor with the American people. And they're just double downing on very far left positions. So if they continue to do that, they continue to double down, and Republicans don't have any blunders. It's a shoo-in for them, but they also have to put in the work. Nothing should be taken for granted.
Absolutely. I'm with you on that one, too, especially. All right, political columnist from Young Voices, Gabriella Hoffman, thank you so much. I appreciate you. It's 8:29 now. Alabama's Morning News. On the way, Fox and Leah and traffic and weather together in 3 minutes.